Our next speaker is Freeha Siddiqi. Before coming to Scripps, Freeha was working in international development, and she came to the MAS MBC program to find a career working in the intersection of climate, fisheries, and management. While here, she engaged in lots of extracurricular activities, like being the president of the Scripps Surfrider Foundation, and going to the UNFCCC, the UN climate negotiations in the fall, as well as doing an ocean conservancy internship as well on equity. So we're here to hear about what Freeha has been working on for her master's capstone project, and I can't wait for you to hear about it. Please join me in welcoming Freeha.
I'm a California transplant. I moved to San Diego from Washington, D.C., where I was working as a contractor for the U.S. Agency for International Development. My work focused on project management and implementation, and my job took me all over the world, which I loved. The projects I worked on focused on making communities abroad more resilient in the face of environmental health issues. While working with these communities, I was also able to explore and travel. While diving for fun with local research organizations in East Africa, I learned about their work monitoring fish stock and with coral resilience. However, they spoke to me about challenges with engaging the community with the science, with sharing research findings between organizations, and with limitations to their access to research tools. It was striking to me that such a gap existed. And my work at the time relied heavily on monitoring and evaluation, so I understood the importance. And I wanted to bring those systems to the marine resource management space. Enter Scripps. I knew I wanted to grow functional skills to create tools that could be scaled and adapted to benefit coastal communities around the world. And so I set out to build a project that integrated aspects of climate mitigation, applied data management, and GIS. I wanted to build something that could be utilized directly to inform decision-making, and where better to do that but right here in the California current ecosystem. California's ocean is home to one of the most biologically diverse and productive marine ecosystems in the world. It provides vital environmental, economic, and cultural resources. However, increasing human activity and climate-related changes are affecting ocean health, threatening marine biodiversity, and altering the services that these ecosystems provide. Understanding and monitoring these changes over time is critical to ensuring a sustainable future for California's coasts and marine life. And I thought, what better way to understand the use of these monitoring tools in the California current ecosystem than asking the data users themselves? And so that brought me to my project goals. I wanted to understand what data is being collected, who is using that data, and what is that data being used for. And ultimately, I wanted to apply my findings into a space that could use them operationally to inform decision-making and at a level that has widespread impact. And that is why I partnered with CalCOFI.
CalCOFI is a research program. It samples the water and animal life of specific locations to investigate the marine environment off the coast of California. These data aid in the management of our living resources by allowing us to determine how the environment affects sea creatures. Since the 1940s, CalCOFI has evolved to also include the new goal of understanding long-term changes in the California marine ecosystem as a whole.
We collect samples when the fish are small, just eggs and larvae, because they can be found near the surface of the ocean and they are easier to catch and count.
NOAA Fisheries uses the data from these scientific samples to recommend fishing quotas for the target species and to perform assessments on local marine mammals and birds.
You get a big picture of what's really going on in the ocean. After we remove all the fish eggs and larvae, they go to Scripps, which houses our samples we've taken since 1949. So many researchers from all over the world can go back in time to study what they need to study.
CalCOFI is an important resource that through the years has been used to make many scientific discoveries. With these data, what we've done is we've looked at the past, we can see what's going on at the moment, and then based off that, we can then tell what might happen in the future.
4 times a year, research cruises visit the same areas that were studied when the program first began in 1949, making CalCOFI the longest-running, continuous time series study of underwater and biological data in the world.
7 decades of a comprehensive data set is by far an invaluable resource.
So, as we heard, the impact of CalCOFI data is far-reaching. The California current is monitored to understand ocean currents that influence the climate and the ecosystems of the area. Data is used to track various marine organisms, which can then be leveraged to support sustainable management of fishing and aquaculture and support conservation efforts. And all of this data is being utilized by oceanographers, meteorologists, state and federal government entities, and organizations across sectors. However, CalCOFI expressed a need to better understand the value of each of their research stations. Here we see a map of the 75 to 133 research stations that CalCOFI frequents 4 times a year, as we learned about in the film clip. Initially, I had thought that the stations were physical locations, like floating docks in the ocean, but no, they're simply just coordinates. The research cruises are meticulously planned out and staffed up, and they carry large amounts of specialized equipment. And so what happens if CalCOFI is on a month-long research cruise and the Navy has an unexpected training in their cruise's trajectory? How do they then make real-time decisions on how to reroute? There's So my question is, how do we know what data is important? And my answer to that question was simply to ask the stakeholders. The first step in this process was to know who the stakeholders are. By exporting a list of publications in which CalCOFI was cited, including both research organizations and government entities, I was able to distill a baseline list of CalCOFI data users. But then I asked, what about organizations that could be using CalCOFI data but don't have access to it? Capturing both current and potential users is important because CalCOFI data has a breadth of applications. And I aim to share data sets that may be of use to potential users, as well as capture what would make the data more accessible to them. And this is where partnering with other fellows at CalCOFI, as well as utilizing my network at Scripps and doing some desk research came into play. And as you can see, it was a lot of desk research. Step 2 was the survey development. In order to capture all types of users, the survey was split into 2 categories for groups that are currently using CalCOFI data, as well as groups that are potential users of CalCOFI data. And the survey questions were crafted precisely to address each of these groups accordingly. I utilized Survey 123, an ArcGIS platform, because it contains exclusive functionalities to embed GIS maps that I needed to use in spatial analysis. It also contains an auto-populating dashboard of survey data, analytics, and allows for continuity post-pilot distribution. Step 3 was the pilot survey dissemination. And to track the distribution, I used a mail merge, which allowed me to collect which emails were bouncing, which emails were opened, and how many times the survey was clicked. And in total, the survey was sent to about 122 stakeholders for the pilot. Of that, we received 40 responses, which is equal to about a 33% response rate. In the pie chart, you can see 34 of those respondents were current users of CalCOFI data, and 6 of them were potential users of CalCOFI data. The respondents also largely identified as academics and researchers, but we also had a lot of meaningful participation from government entities, educational institutions, NGOs, and nonprofits, as you can see in the chart below. My results from the pilot also showed that largely CalCOFI data is being used for discovery-based research, policy and management, and ecosystem-based management. Once I received the survey results, I exported them in GIS. These blue polygons that you see represent the areas that CalCOFI data users found most important. Then I ran an analysis tool to overlay the CalCOFI research stations with those polygons. The stations which received the most overlays were valued higher and are indicated in a darker red. This tool also allows you to click each polygon and pull the survey results for each respondent to be able to pull their data parameter priorities. And this tool will be highly useful for CalCOFI in better understanding the priorities of each research station. The last step in my process and my last deliverable was my story map. I utilized GIS again to put together an overview of the importance of marine monitoring, of CalCOFI's history and impact, and the research question I was seeking to answer. Who is using CalCOFI data and why? I also included the stakeholder list and the survey results from the distribution. And the survey results can be updated for each survey distribution following my pilot and for consumption by the public. And these tools have been handed over to CalCOFI along with the survey and the master stakeholder list so they can continue the research. And my hope now is that with these tools, CalCOFI will be better equipped to gain a more robust understanding of their data usage and to make informed decisions at the operational level. Moving forward, I hope to take the tools that I've built at Scripps with CalCOFI and all the invaluable experiences I've gained through this program and to use them to make coastal communities in resource-scarce areas of the world more resilient with robust data platforms. And with that, I would like to thank my cohort, especially my family and my friends, a few of which are here today, and a special thanks to my Capstone Advisory Committee, my chair, Aaron Satherwaite, for being my thought leader, my advisor, Rasmus Swalethorpe, for his wealth of practical knowledge, and my advisor, Heidi Bachelor, for being a guru of all things GIS. Thank you. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Good job. Did you have any findings that surprised you, or groups or organizations that do use it that you weren't expecting to see?
Yeah, I think that one of the main challenges when I was putting together the stakeholder list, and in particular the distribution list, was how difficult it was to find industry partners. So a lot of the existing partners pulled from the resources that we have, like I said, were academics, researchers, things that you would kind of assume. But we really wanted more meaningful participation, one from industry partners, fishermen, tourist industries, as well as private organizations, and that's something that the fellows at CalCOFI are also continuing to work on.
Yeah, so quick question. Going back to that example you said earlier, how would CalCOFI use your tool if their research trip was interrupted by a naval mission?
Great question, thank you. So hypothetically, say CalCOFI is on a research cruise and unexpectedly the Navy says they're conducting a training that interrupts with CalCOFI's ability to reach stations 1, 2, and 3. With my tool, the operational director of the cruise will be able to click on those research stations, pull the data parameter profiles, like the priorities of what those stations are being used for, and then compare that profile with the other stations to be able to ensure that they're continuing to collect relevant data. Thank you.
I've got one, actually. Great presentation, Freeha. If there was one key takeaway from your survey findings, what would it be?
Yeah, so I think that what really struck me from the process of this project was what goes into survey research, and I think that's really one of my key takeaways. It takes a wealth of knowledge and expertise. You kind of have to work backwards and keep drilling down on your research question and then extract, what you need your outputs to be and make sure that those questions are formed in a way that gives you the necessary output. So for me, a lot of that was GIS. And so, yeah, I mean, you go into something thinking, yeah, I'm going to survey a bunch of people, but it really does take a ton of work, and I was lucky to have an advisory committee that helped me along the way.
And I'm going to squeeze in one more because it's from one of your capstone committee members online. If you had 3 more months to work on this, what would you do?
Yeah, I would certainly love to do another distribution. For the pilot distribution, we were lucky to reach 40 respondents out of 122, which doesn't sound like a lot, but a 33 response rate is pretty good. I'm proud of it. I would love to work a little bit more with the other fellows at CalCOFI to really drill down on that stakeholder list and get some of those industry partners, as well as more participation from potential users of the CalCOFI data. And then in addition to redistributing the survey, also being able to share some of the data sets. We got a lot of meaningful feedback from potential CalCOFI data users on how to make that data more accessible to them, and I think that that would be a really cool part of the project to build upon.
Great. Thanks, Freeha.
Thank you.